camera is Keeper Eric. So you'll hear his voice today too. Great to have you here again for another Facebook Live. We've been doing this for several weeks now. We really appreciate the support you guys have been giving us, coming out to see what we have going on, what's happening, giving these guys a little bit of spotlight. I gotta tell you, this one, he's been missing the spotlight. He's a star, he's a diva, and has been really missing getting out and showing off. So we appreciate the opportunity to let him show off. So this is Queso. Queso is a Pueblan milk snake. Pueblan, capital P, which means not, we think of a Puebla maybe as a village, but Puebla is a state in Mexico, which is where they are found. In that state, Oaxaca, as well, so to the south of Mexico, is where you're gonna find this type of snake. They are a sort of king snake. If you're into snakes and you know a little bit about taxonomy, king snake is a large group of snakes, and this is one of those members. So they are mostly noted by the rings that they have on their body. You can tell he's just got this great little head. I love his little head. It's hard to see his eyes because they're just so tiny, and they're black. They blend right into his head. You see a little bit of a shine, a little bit of a sheen. He's so excited. I'm gonna go ahead and put him down here so we can see it really well. He really comes out, his colors shine against that white background. So he'll be able to just kind of move around, feel this slick surface. Snakes love to feel things. That's their enrichment. You guys have been around for our enrichment talks the last, well, we've talked about that a lot over these Facebook Lives. And one of the things that snakes really enjoy is, one, just getting out, new environments, new experiences, new smells. But they also like to feel things. So even though this tabletop really doesn't have much texture that we can feel, it's got a slick smoothness to it that's different for this snake. So they do like to feel that. And then this will have a little bit different texture. So they just like to feel, you'll see them being more wiggly when we put them down. And that's one of their forms of enrichment. It also works great because we can see then how snakes move. Let me keep filling you in on this particular species, and him individually. So Queso is a 6-year-old snake, which is of adult age and getting close to adult size. I think he's got a little bit more growing to do before he's what we would call quote unquote full size. With a snake, there's never an official end to the size, the length that they can get, but he could get a little more girth, a little bigger around, and just a little bit longer before, you know, he might be almost done with that growth. Well, anyway, yeah. So the colors are very stark, you can see, right? So he's got this yellow, black, and red going on. This is a non-venomous snake. It's easy to tell that he's non-venomous because, like, I was holding him and now Eric's getting real close to him. That's how we know for sure when you're looking at a snake at the zoo. We don't mess with the ones who would be venomous. That's just not safe and not a great idea. Plus, they don't usually like it. They're not as even-tempered typically as your non-venomous snakes. So the milk snake has an interesting color palette because it is the same color palette as the venomous coral snake that's found in the same region. I bet you can guess why they might have the same color palette. I'll give you a second to think on that. If you have an answer, if you think you know, write that in the comments and Eric will tell me that you got it, okay? So let's think on that and move on a little bit. His primary food source is going to be furry things. They like little mammals. At the zoo, he eats mice. Maybe a juvenile rat he could eat, but nothing too large. You can see that his head, just compared to my hand, is not that big. He's a pretty tiny guy. But if he's like, hey, I was playing, what's going on? And they're quick, right? They got to catch those mice. They're ambush hunters, so they're going to tend to stay in one spot and then just reach out and grab when something gets too close. So a snake in general can eat something, a prey animal, that's about 10 times bigger than its head. It's just stretchy. Snakes are so stretchy. They have more elastin in their skin than we do, same than most animals do actually. So their skin will stretch, their mouth can open wider. If you open your mouth as wide as you can go, it hurts at the edges of your mouth because your skin stops stretching and that's pulling, keeping your jaw from flopping all the way open. The other thing that keeps your jaw in place is a very tight tendon that attaches your lower jaw to your skull. Snakes have a more stretchy tendon, so it's like a rubber band. So they can stretch their mouth open, they can open their mouth wide and then stretch that jaw apart and swallow a large prey item. And you can see, since he doesn't have legs, they have no legs, no feet, no claws, no help in getting food into their mouth. They've got to be able to accommodate. And so their mouth, that flexibility and stretchiness will accommodate that. Did we get anybody with an answer yet?
We got 3 people who hit it on the head.
Sweet.
Allison, Ricky, and Laura all thought that if it looks like a coral snake, that predators and other animals would just leave it alone.
Love it. Bravo, guys. You got the right answer. So think about being out in the desert. These guys are found in very arid areas. So deserts, scrublands, places where there's just not much water, not much foliage. They hang out and they're very visible, obviously. This is more rainforest camouflage than it would be desert camouflage. So they're not really looking to camouflage. They're looking to stand out. The coral snake is too. So the coral snake, what it's doing is saying, predators, don't eat me. I can be a problem for you, so just avoid me. And that keeps them safer. It's kind of, we think of that, it's a little bit, we have backwards thinking almost, but it's true. If something's off-putting, we want to avoid it. The same thing for the predators, because predators have to be safe. If they don't know something's safe to eat, they're not going to try to eat it, because they have one chance to get it wrong, and then it's game over. So they always are going to be careful. They're going to be more cautious about what they eat. He fell asleep.
How do you tell the difference between a milk snake and a coral snake in North America?
So here we go. In North America, the coral snake again has the same colors, red, black, yellow, but they are in a different order. So the bands are in a different order. And this is North America only. Do not go to South America and try this, because it won't work. You never know what you're going to get there. I've seen non-venomous snakes that have the same order pattern as a coral snake, so you just don't know. I mean, that would have been a safe thing, but still. So there's a rhyme, and this is something that people in the area have been saying for a long time, just so they know and can teach their kids. And it goes like this: red touches black, friend to Jack. So take a second, check out Queso. You can see that his red touches his black. Red touches black, friend to Jack. Red touches yellow, dangerous fellow or kill a fellow. There's a lot of variations on that. So if the red and the yellow are touching, then you know you have a coral snake, and that is a venomous snake. And they are highly venomous, so it's not the kind of snake where, just a little bite won't hurt me. Nah, it will. So you want to be awfully cautious about that. Now, let's equate that up to the predator. So let's say a hawk. Hawks love eating snakes, and that's a great prey item for a desert animal like a hawk. So they're circling around, they're looking from a high perch and looking down for some food, and they see a snake. And then the hawk goes, red touches black, friend to Jack. No. He doesn't know the rhyme. So he's not going to be able to help himself. He's just going to see those colors, that bright burst of colors, the bands. He doesn't even necessarily see the red, black, yellow, but he sees those bands and the brightness and intensity of the color, and he knows that it's nothing that he wants to mess with.
How far? I'm about 10 feet away from it right now.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I can look, my glasses aren't on, but I can kind of see where the colors are touching. But even from 10 feet away, it's really hard to tell. Like, I wouldn't want to just reach out and grab it.
Right.
So
if you're a predator, you have to start thinking about catching it when you're that far away, for sure. You don't wait till you're this close and go, oh wait, no. So we have any questions about this guy?
yeah, we have a couple.
Great.
Allison wants to know why they're called milk snakes. Is it because they're found in pastures with cows?
I love that question, and you are so right on it. So, they actually, the story goes, the folklore about these snakes go that the folks would find them in their barns around their cows. And the presumption was that they were drinking the milk, because that's why they had the cows, was for the milk. So they figured the snakes were drinking the milk too. Well, in fact, the snakes were in the barn, yes, They were hanging out near the cows, yes, because there was grain and there were yummy things for mice and rats and birds to eat, and then that gives the snake something to eat. So snakes are farmers' friends. If you spend any time around a farm, if you have maybe grown up on a farm or have a chance to be on a farm, you're likely to see snakes, especially in areas where there's grain, because that's where the food is. They're not eating the grain, they're eating who's eating the grain. So it's pretty cool.
Let's see. Ricky wants to know if this kind of snake makes a good pet.
Well, they are a docile species. I like to watch him move. He gets so excited. They're a docile species. They take some handling. We got him when he was just the size of a pencil. And he was just teeny tiny. Think about just a regular number 2 pencil, and that's how big he was. So it's really cool. It's been nice just watching him grow up and handling him through that time. He was always a little squirmy at first, and then just as we have, he's so excited, just as we have been working with him over the years, he's gotten where he really does like to come out, likes to be handled. And so the temperament of this snake is pretty good. Pretty even-tempered as long as you work with them. And that's often the key. They don't really have any, well, Eric, you can address any specific issues that they have, if there are temperature requirements that are specific to this type of snake, humidity requirements, anything like that.
Yeah. Well, this is like Shannon said, a desert species. So it's not going to need a ton of humidity like a boa constrictor would or a ball python, because those are more rainforest animals. So you don't need a ton of humidity, but you do need a lot of heat. They do need some place to either bask in the sun, or they need some sort of warming area that they can go. Remember that snakes are ectothermic. They're getting all their heat from the environment. So you got to provide that. They're fairly easy to feed. They just take, at this size, he's not even eating mice yet. He's still eating little pinky rats, so you can buy those frozen at the store already. So that's pretty easy to deal with. So yeah, relatively easy pets to have. Again, you're feeding a snake every 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe.
Once they're adult size.
Yeah, when they're little, you're feeding them once a week or so. But you know, you can't do that with a dog or a cat. They're going to get pretty hungry and bug you. But a snake, snake doesn't care.
This is also an animal that will live to be 20 plus years. So we have to consider that always when thinking about an animal to have as a pet. How long it's going to live and what your life is like and what it might look like 20 years from now. So always be considering that.
All right, let's see. Laura asks, do snakes have a lot of muscles? It seems like they would need a lot of muscles to slither along.
That is a fabulous observation. And it's absolutely true. Snake is, I can't say almost all muscle, but they just don't harbor a lot of fat. They have very small bones, very thin bones in their body. And they have ribs all the way down, but they're just really very, very thin, very fragile, actually, and so they don't take up a lot of space. That leaves a lot more room for muscle, because yes, to move around without legs, that's what it takes. So they've got a set of muscles on their belly, on their ventral side, that has a certain system to it. It's way complicated to try and explain, so I never really try to fully do it. But it's sort of a system of contraction and relaxation. So if you think about, show me your muscles, and you contract your muscles and you make your biceps bigger by contracting them, that's kind of what they will do. And then there's a relaxation. So they work in different segments, the muscles. They work in little groups, and contract, relax, so that will move the snake forward. And that's a very simplistic explanation, but that's kind of how it goes. They have muscles throughout though, and Queso he doesn't hold on super tight. He's just a little dude. In fact, like I was wearing him around my wrist earlier, and he, like, a bracelet that I have at my house is heavier than he is. So, but he can hold on, like he can, he has a grip. And so there is a lot of muscle power behind this. You can see the motion of the snake. It almost looks like he's swimming, right? Snakes are amazing swimmers because that's how they move their body, and it just automatically really makes for a perfect swim stroke. They're also amazing climbers, and due to that, muscle strength.
All right. Elise wants to know if they eat lizards or just mice and rats.
You know, I think that if he's hungry, whatever he finds in his environment, he's going to eat. Now, they're not really an animal that's going to eat other snakes. These guys really aren't prone to that, and they do prefer something that has some warmth to it, some heat to it. So mammals and birds would be their preference. But if he found a lizard or a frog and he's hungry, he'll eat it.
Sure. Grace's dad is watching, and he says, what kind of enclosure is needed? Are they escape artists?
Well, just based on the size alone, you have to watch that. So they're active. You can see that he is active. He's curious. These guys, they're actually less active right now during the middle of the day. This isn't their normal active time, though at the zoo you kind of have to be. So he's okay with that. We're going to see him most active in his enclosure, mostly at dawn and dusk. A little bit into the night. That's the normal, they're crepuscular, so that's the normal active range for a snake. And what we do have to do, during that time, what they're going to do is they're just going to be exploring. So if their head finds a little bit of a hole or something that it can push up against, I mean, some of the tanks that we have had, the large tanks that don't have a lid that we can lock or a door that we can lock, Eric has screened up on top to keep the animal safe, but you got to put something heavy on top of that to make sure they don't push it up. Because with those muscles, they can actually come up this way too and push. So it's almost like they're standing up. There's, so anything that's long and skinny like this, you don't want to put it past them. And especially when they're teeny tiny. It's amazing the holes they can get out of. So yeah, you really do have to make sure that you have a sealed, tight container. Obviously air holes, super important. Airflow is super important, but a little mesh is a good thing, a very fine mesh.
Yeah. Usually a snake like this goes into a cage that's glass on 5 sides, and then you put a mesh lid on that you have to weigh down and make sure that there's no little gaps. I want to say he escaped at one point, that whatever we had him in, somebody didn't close the door all the way, and it was just took a half an inch. It was all it took for him to push his way through or something. So,
and just the shape of the body, the head, because the body is so you're fun. The body is sort of the same. It's almost the same width as the head, the same girth. So with some snakes, like the boas, the pythons, their head is small. The rest of them is bigger around than their head. So that can be a stopping point for them. They'll be, oh, my head fit, but the rest of me doesn't. So they'll back up. These guys, well, they don't really have that problem. So
right, and they can. I don't want to squeeze them real tight, but you can kind of don't go anywhere. Like pinch him in a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm not squeezing him real hard, but his body's kind of flattening out. Mm-hmm. So if they can get their head through, they can flatten the rest of their body too.
They can inflate their lungs, same like us.
Yeah.
They can inflate it to stick into a place because, if he's feeling cozy inside of his Parmesan cheese container and he doesn't want to leave, he'll breathe in and hold it, and then he gets wedged.
Yeah.
So that could be a struggle.
One thing about snakes is you never want to give them something that they just barely fit into, that you can't get into yourself, like a log. Because if they get in a log and they puff their body up, there's no way to get them out. You can't just pull them out because you'll hurt them. So anytime you have a snake, you want to make sure that it's either something large enough that they can't get stuck in, or something that only has a couple sides so you can always pick it up, or something with a lid you can unscrew. Christine, I think this is your aunt, is that right?
Hi, Chrissy.
She asked, will they bite you?
Well, the rule is anything with a mouth can bite. Will it? I would give him a 0.0.0.1% chance of biting. That's really his MO. He's so used to what we do here with him. He's used to being handled. It doesn't scare him. And that's really when animals bite, is when they're afraid. So, and that goes for any animal. I'm always more worried about mammals. Honestly, I get bit by more mammals. I mean, kind of, not all the time, but kind of a lot.
Rodents.
Rodents specifically, yes.
Yeah.
Well, hedgehogs. There's a lot of those little, those nibble
Pocket
dudes.
pets.
Yeah. Snakes, I mean, in my 25 plus years, I've only been bitten by 3 snakes. So I feel very fortunate about, 30 rabbits and 20 hedgehogs. So for snakes, it takes a lot for them to want to bite. But really the whole thing, with any animal, it's about fear for the most part, or an uncomfortable feeling. If a snake is afraid, the only way that it can tell you that is to bite. They don't have any way, they don't make a sound. They sometimes will release air and kind of do a hiss, sort of like every animal will do. But outside of that, it can't scream, it can't poke you, it can't use claws, it can't do anything except just give you that bite. So if he were out in the wild, if I were out walking around and I've got my camera and I'm looking for things to take pictures of and I see him, I'm going to take his picture, but I'm not going to try to pick him up. Because I'm a giant hand coming out of the sky. And if a giant hand came out of the sky and picked me up, I'd bite him. And they would too. So because he's socialized, and when we have a snake at first, I have to say he was the best baby. Oh my goodness, he never even attempted to bite when he was a baby. But we have a snake that we are getting grown up now. We've been working with him for a couple of years. And he'd boop us. When he was a little tiny dude, he just was not about the hands coming, so we just had to get him used to that. Okay, nothing bad's gonna happen to me. I'm gonna get to go play. So once they know what's going on, there's no fear and they are cool with it. So that is a great question. That's a question we get asked a lot about animals in general. So everything, if it's got a mouth, there's a potential, but you just have to be respectful of it and make sure that you're doing everything you can to make sure it's comfortable. That's really the key.
And remember, their first line of defense is just to leave. Mm-hmm. So if you find a snake and you don't want it somewhere, I mean, a lot of times just kind of annoying it just by being around it will make it want to leave. And then you don't have to worry about getting bit. And if you try to pick it up, that's when you get bit. Let's see. Joe asks, he says he knows they feel vibrations, but do they also have ears and hear sounds?
Great question. They actually do not have any ears, but they do feel sounds. Those vibrations you were talking about, that's also how they can hear. So it's kind of the hear-feel combo. They have very loose little little bones in their head. You know the bones that are in our ears? I can't name them all. There's the
stapes.
There's like the,
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Those little bones. And when vibrations, sound waves hit those, they make the sounds that then bounce against our eardrums, and it creates the distinct sounds that we can hear. So we can hear voices, we can hear enunciations, things like that. Snakes don't have that. They can't hear a specific. So you're never going to teach a snake its name. It can't hear that. But what it can hear is tone. Like it can feel the tone. It can feel the intensity. It can feel softness. It can feel really loud. It can feel, and so it can understand once it has experienced these things. It can start to understand. Am I hearing, quote unquote, hearing? Am I feeling a prey animal coming? I know that when I have felt that vibration before and I've tried to eat it, it was wonderful. So I know that that's something I want to eat. Or maybe this is something that is big, it's large, I want to get out of the way because it might be the predator. So they can start to understand relations to the sounds. It's just not the same as hearing with ears.
Yeah. And there was a guy at another zoo, not here, but I think he took a tuning fork.
Yeah.
And every time before he fed the snakes, he'd hit the tuning fork, And it got to the point where he'd hit the tuning fork and all the snakes would run over to get fed because they knew it was feeding time.
Wow, those are amazing.
They slithered over.
Yeah.
They quickly
And the tuning fork
mobilized.
is actually the way that I have demonstrated in classes how a snake can hear. It's that kind of that buzzing almost sound in your head.
Yeah. All right. Some good questions today.
Yeah, I am
think
so
we're-
glad you guys all joined us. I hope you enjoyed looking at Queso. I got to tell you, I think he's a work of art. He's beautiful. His lines. I love this unfinished. He's an unfinished work of art. You see this little bit? He's got this one. You're silly. He got wound up now. He's got the one. Oh, come here, see me so you can say goodbye. There we go. He's got the one that's going almost all the way around, but not quite. It's the cutest part. I love the patterns on snakes. I think it's amazing. And even if they're just a couple of colors, just the intensities of the colors, the tones, are just gorgeous animals. So I hope that you will look at them in appreciation that way. And as the important predators in the ecosystem that they are. And for all those things that they have, that they do as a benefit the environments in which they live, including ours. So thanks guys so much for joining us today. Appreciate it. Great to see you, great to talk to you. I hope that you have a really wonderful week. I have just a quick little PSA. We have a virtual class coming up next week. It's called Jeepers Keepers. We have a little more space in that class. It's a mini camp. One class for 10 to 17-year-olds is running Monday and Tuesday. It's a 2-hour class both days. And then we have a class that's for 7 to 9-year-olds on Wednesday through Friday next week. Again, it's a virtual class, but it's all about being a zookeeper, learning about the career and all the different things that they might do in their job. So it's super fun. I think Zookeeper Eric's going to show up on 1 or 2 of those days, so that'll be fun too. And then we're getting ready to open the doors to the zoo. So we're getting closer to that day. Keep checking our website and our Facebook page to get info on making reservations to come and see the animals again. Thanks, guys.